The night attack at Targovista, also called the Night Raid of Targovista, was a dramatic and brutal military maneuver conducted by Vlad III Dracula, also known as Vlad the Impaler, in June 1462. It was a surprise night assault aimed at assassinating Sultan Mehmed II, the powerful Ottoman ruler who had invaded Wallachia with a massive army. This event is one of the most famous episodes in Vlad's reign and a key moment in his legendary status as both a feared and cunning warlord. Background: by 1462, tensions between Wallachia, modern-day Romania, and the Ottoman Empire were dangerously high. Although Vlad III had once been an Ottoman vassal, he broke ties with the empire by refusing to pay tribute and launching deadly attacks against Ottoman-controlled territories south of the Danube. In retaliation, Sultan Mehmed II, fresh off his conquest of Constantinople in 1453, marched into Wallachia with an army estimated at 60,000 to 90,000 men, intending to remove Vlad from power and replace him with his more compliant brother, Radu the Handsome. The night attack, June 17, 1462. Realizing he could not defeat the Sultan's much larger army in a conventional battle, Vlad employed guerrilla tactics. He poisoned wells, burned crops, used scorched earth strategies, and launched constant ambushes to weaken and demoralize the Ottoman forces. Then, on the night of June 17, Vlad led a small force of 7,000 to 10,000 men in a daring raid on the Ottoman camp near Targovista, the Wallachian capital. Key features of the attack: total darkness and confusion. Vlad's forces moved under cover of darkness, using their intimate knowledge of the terrain to infiltrate the enemy camp. They wore Ottoman uniforms and mimicked Turkish commands to avoid early detection. Psychological warfare: Vlad hoped to create total chaos and assassinate the Sultan. His soldiers set fires, blew horns, and attacked from multiple angles, creating the illusion of a massive full-scale assault. Failed assassination: the main goal was to reach and kill Sultan Mehmed II in his tent. Although they got close, the plan failed. Vlad mistakenly attacked the tents of the Grand Vizier and other commanders instead of the Sultan's. Ottoman panic and losses: the Ottomans suffered heavy casualties and were thrown into confusion. While the raid did not achieve its main goal, it seriously damaged Ottoman morale and disrupted their operations. Though the Sultan survived, the Ottoman army was deeply shaken. When they finally reached Targovista, they found the area deserted and eerily quiet. Most famously, the Ottomans encountered a forest of the impaled. Vlad had arranged 20,000 impaled corpses of captured Ottoman soldiers and suspected traitors outside the city. The gruesome sight is said to have so disturbed Mehmed II that he retreated from Wallachia shortly afterward, though Radu remained behind to try and secure control. Vlad's reputation as a fearsome and ruthless ruler spread across Europe and the Middle East, earning him both admiration and terror. The night attack of Targovista is considered one of Vlad the Impaler's most brilliant military maneuvers. It showcased his use of terror, deception, and psychological warfare. It temporarily halted Ottoman advances and demonstrated that even a small principality like Wallachia could threaten the might of the Ottoman Empire under the right leadership. This event cemented Vlad's legacy in Romanian folklore and European legend, eventually inspiring Bram Stoker's Dracula centuries later. The Battle of Montgessard, fought on November 25, 1177, was a stunning and unexpected crusader victory against the forces of the famed Muslim leader Saladin, Sultan of Egypt and Syria. Despite being vastly outnumbered, a small force led by Baldwin IV, the young and leper-stricken king of Jerusalem, defeated Saladin's much larger and more experienced army near Ramla, in present-day Israel. In the late 12th century, tensions between the Christian Crusader Kingdom of Jerusalem and Saladin's expanding Muslim empire were escalating. After consolidating power in Egypt and Syria, Saladin sought to destroy the Crusader states and reclaim Jerusalem for Islam. In 1177, Saladin launched a major campaign into the Kingdom of Jerusalem with a force of around 20,000 to 30,000 men, aiming to strike at the heart of the Christian kingdom while many of its knights were away on campaign in the north. At this time, King Baldwin IV, only 16 years old and suffering from advanced leprosy, was left with a small army, numbering no more than 500 to 600 knights and 3,000 to 4,000 infantry. Saladin believed the Kingdom of Jerusalem was virtually defenseless and began raiding and pillaging towns as he advanced. However, Baldwin IV, having been reinforced by Templar knights from Gaza, decided to risk everything in a bold counterattack. Surprise attack at Montgessard. Baldwin caught Saladin's army near Montgessard, a hill close to the road between Ramla and Jerusalem. The Crusaders attacked swiftly and decisively, catching the Muslim army disorganized and unprepared. Many of Saladin's men had spread out for raiding, and the main force was weighed down with loot. Key elements of the battle. Baldwin IV led from the front, despite his illness. He had to be physically supported on his horse, but his presence inspired his troops. The Templars played a critical role, launching a fierce charge that broke parts of Saladin's lines. The Crusaders used the element of surprise, terrain, and the tight formation of heavy cavalry charges to their advantage. Saladin's army, caught off guard and divided, was quickly overwhelmed. The main camp was overrun, and much of the army fled in panic. Saladin barely escaped, reportedly fleeing on a racing camel, with only a small part of his bodyguard surviving the retreat. The Muslims suffered massive losses, with thousands of soldiers killed and most of their camp, supplies, and loot captured by the Crusaders. It was one of the worst defeats of Saladin's career, and it temporarily halted his campaign to capture Jerusalem. The Battle of Montgessard became legendary in Crusader lore, celebrated as a miraculous victory. It boosted the morale of the Christian states, proving that they could still stand up to Saladin's might, even with limited forces. King Baldwin IV's reputation soared, and he was seen as a courageous, almost saintly figure, fighting not only the enemy but also his own physical decay. However, the victory did not permanently stop Saladin. Within a decade, he would regroup and achieve his famous victory at the Battle of Hattin in 1187, leading to the fall of Jerusalem. Montgessard is remembered as a classic example of tactical brilliance, courage under adversity, and the power of leadership. It's often cited in medieval sources as proof that faith and valor could triumph against overwhelming odds. For Saladin, it was a humbling experience that taught him to never underestimate the Crusaders again. The Battle of Jaran Manjur, also known as the Battle of Jaran Manjur Pass, took place in 1299 between the Delhi Sultanate and the Mongol Empire near the Indus River, in present-day Pakistan. The Mongols, under Kutala Khwaja, launched a massive invasion into northern India, advancing toward Delhi with a formidable force. Alauddin Khalji, Sultan of Delhi, responded quickly by sending a powerful army led by his trusted general Zafar Khan. The two sides clashed at Jaran Manjur, a narrow and strategically important location. Zafar Khan fiercely attacked the Mongol forces, inflicting heavy casualties. Though he was eventually killed in battle, his aggressive assault disrupted the Mongol advance. The Mongols, weakened and unable to continue their campaign, retreated, and the Sultanate was saved. The battle showcased Zafar Khan's bravery and tactical aggression, though he died a hero. It was a turning point in defending the Indian subcontinent from Mongol invasions. Alauddin Khalji's reign saw multiple Mongol invasions, but this battle marked one of the earliest and most crucial defenses. The Battle of Agincourt, fought on October 25, 1415, was a major English victory in the Hundred Years' War between England and France. Led by King Henry V of England, a small, exhausted English army, around 6,000 men, faced a much larger French force, estimated 20,000 to 30,000 troops, near the village of Agincourt in northern France. The English were outnumbered and suffering from illness after a long campaign and siege at Harfleur. Terrain and mud played a huge role. Heavy rain turned the battlefield into deep mud, which slowed the heavily armored French knights. Henry positioned his troops behind wooden stakes with archers on the flanks, mostly longbowmen, who devastated the French with volleys of arrows. The French cavalry and infantry, packed tightly and funneled into narrow lanes, were slaughtered in the mud. England won a decisive victory, with thousands of French knights and nobles killed or captured. English casualties were light by comparison. The battle solidified Henry V's reputation and boosted English morale during the war. The Battle of Agincourt became legendary, symbolizing heroism against overwhelming odds. It showed the effectiveness of English longbowmen and marked a shift in medieval warfare. It remains one of the most celebrated English military triumphs, famously dramatized by Shakespeare in Henry V. The Battle of Bannockburn, fought on June 23–24, 1314, was a decisive Scottish victory in the First War of Scottish Independence against England. The battle took place near Stirling, Scotland. The Scottish forces were led by King Robert the Bruce. The English army, commanded by King Edward II, aimed to relieve the besieged Stirling Castle and crush the Scottish rebellion. The Scots were outnumbered, around 6,000 Scots versus 13,000 to 20,000 English, but had strong positions and superior tactics. Robert the Bruce used tight infantry formations called schiltrons, spear walls, to resist English cavalry. On the first day, Bruce famously killed an English knight in single combat, boosting Scottish morale. On the second day, the English army became trapped in marshy ground and was crushed by a Scottish counterattack. The English army was routed, and many nobles were captured or killed. Edward II fled the battlefield in defeat. The victory secured Robert the Bruce's position as King of Scots. It marked a turning point in the war and was a major step towards Scottish independence, which would be officially recognised in 1328. Bannockburn remains one of Scotland's most celebrated military triumphs and a powerful symbol of national pride. The Battle of Towton, fought on March 29, 1461, was the largest and bloodiest battle of the Wars of the Roses, a civil war in England between the rival houses of Lancaster and York. The battle took place near Towton in Yorkshire during a snowstorm. The Yorkists, led by Edward IV, who had just declared himself king, faced the Lancastrians, loyal to King Henry VI. Both sides fielded massive armies, around 50,000 to 60,000 men in total, making it the largest battle ever fought on English soil. Blizzard conditions gave the Yorkists an advantage, with the wind at their backs. Archers played a key role early on, with Yorkist arrows flying farther and more accurately. Brutal hand-to-hand combat followed, lasting for hours in the snow and mud. Lancastrian forces eventually broke and fled, with many being cut down as they tried to escape across the Cockbeck River, which ran red with blood. A decisive Yorkist victory, Edward IV solidified his claim to the English throne and was crowned soon after. The Lancastrians suffered huge casualties, up to 28,000 men were killed, a staggering toll for the time. The battle marked a major shift in the Wars of the Roses in favor of the Yorkists. It showed the brutality of the conflict, where no quarter was given. Towton became a symbol of the devastating cost of civil war in England.